What if I told you that 2,000 years ago, a Roman emperor sitting in his tent during a brutal military campaign wrote down thoughts that could completely transform how you experience today? Not tomorrow, not next week, but this very day you're living right now. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world at that time, wasn't writing for fame or fortune. He was writing to survive the chaos of leadership, war, and human suffering. His private journal, what we now call Meditations, contains wisdom so powerful that it has guided everyone from presidents to prisoners, from CEOs to students struggling with anxiety. But here's the paradox. While millions have read these ancient words, most people still wake up feeling overwhelmed, reactive, and at the mercy of circumstances beyond their control. They're looking for happiness in all the wrong places, in other people's opinions, in perfect outcomes, in a future that may never come. The Stoics discovered something revolutionary. True power comes not from controlling the world around you, but from mastering the world within you. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Welcome back to Reality Shift, where ancient wisdom meets modern living. I'm here to share with you 12 fundamental Stoic rules that can transform any ordinary day into your best day. These aren't just philosophical concepts floating in the clouds. They're practical, battle-tested principles that have helped millions of people find inner peace, unshakable confidence, and genuine happiness. Over the next several minutes, we're going to dive deep into the minds of three extraordinary teachers: Marcus Aurelius, the emperor philosopher; Seneca, the advisor who navigated the dangerous courts of Rome; and Epictetus, the slave who became one of history's greatest teachers of freedom. Each rule I share today comes with three things: the philosophical foundation that makes it unbreakable, a real-world example that proves it works, and specific actions you can take starting this moment. By the end of this video, you'll have a complete blueprint for living with the kind of inner strength and peace that most people only dream about. So grab a notebook, because what you're about to learn has the power to make you completely unrecognizable to your old self. Rule 1. Master the dichotomy of control. Let's begin with the foundational principle that every Stoic master understood: the dichotomy of control. This single concept is so powerful that it can instantly eliminate 90% of your daily stress and anxiety. Epictetus, who knew more about powerlessness than perhaps any philosopher in history, taught us, some things are within our power, while others are not. Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, aversion, and in a word, whatever is of our own doing. Not within our power are our body, our property, reputation, position, and in a word, whatever is not of our own doing. Think about your last moment of frustration. Maybe someone cut you off in traffic. Maybe your boss criticized your work unfairly. Maybe your partner didn't respond to your text message. In every single case, you were trying to control something that was never yours to control: other people's actions, the weather, the past, the future. Here's what this looks like in modern life. Sarah, a marketing manager, used to spend hours every day stressed about whether her clients would approve her proposals. She'd lose sleep, snap at her family, and constantly refresh her email. Then she discovered this Stoic principle. She realized that once she submitted her best work, the client's response was completely out of her control. What was in her control? The quality of her preparation, her attitude during presentations, and how she responded to feedback. The transformation was immediate. She began focusing 100% of her energy on what she could control: her effort, her learning, her responses. The result? Not only did her stress disappear, but her work actually improved because she wasn't wasting mental energy on uncontrollable outcomes. Action step. Right now, write down the top 3 things stressing you out. For each one, ask yourself, is this within my control or outside my control? If it's outside your control, practice letting it go. If it's within your control, make a specific plan to address it. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, confine yourself to the present, because the present moment is the only place where your true power exists. Rule 2. Practice morning reflection. Set your philosophical foundation. Every Stoic master began their day not by checking their phone or rushing into action, but by setting their philosophical foundation. This is the practice that separates those who are blown around by circumstances from those who remain steady in any storm. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own." This isn't pessimism, it's preparation. It's the difference between being caught off guard by human nature and being mentally prepared to respond with wisdom rather than react with emotion. Consider James, a high school teacher who used to start every day already stressed about potential problems, difficult students, administrative pressures, unexpected challenges. He'd arrive at work already defeated before his first class even began. Then he started practicing Stoic morning reflection. Every morning, he'd spend 5 minutes mentally preparing. Today, I might encounter students who are struggling, parents who are frustrated, administrators who are under pressure. I cannot control their behavior, but I can control my responses. I can choose patience over irritation, understanding over judgment, and wisdom over reaction. The change in his classroom was remarkable. When difficult situations arose, and they did, he was mentally prepared. Instead of reacting defensively, he responded thoughtfully. His students noticed the difference. His stress levels plummeted. He began looking forward to challenges instead of dreading them. Action step. Tomorrow morning, before checking your phone or starting your routine, spend 5 minutes preparing mentally for your day. Think about potential challenges and mentally rehearse responding with Stoic principles rather than emotional reactions. Seneca teaches us, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Make each morning a new beginning of conscious, intentional living. Rule 3. Transform obstacles into opportunities. Perhaps no Stoic teaching is more powerful or more misunderstood than this. Obstacles are not impediments to your path, they are the path. This concept, which Marcus Aurelius called the impediment to action advances action, can completely revolutionize how you experience setbacks. Marcus wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This isn't positive thinking or wishful optimism. This is a fundamental understanding of how growth actually works. Every obstacle contains within it the seeds of strength, wisdom, or opportunity that you wouldn't have discovered otherwise. The traffic jam that teaches you patience. The job rejection that leads you to a better opportunity. The criticism that helps you grow. The failure that teaches you resilience. Consider the story of Maria, an aspiring entrepreneur who spent 2 years developing what she thought was a revolutionary app. When she finally launched it, it was a complete failure. Customers didn't understand it, investors weren't interested, and she lost her life savings. The old Maria would have seen this as pure devastation, a waste of time, money, and dreams. But she had been studying Stoic philosophy. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" she asked, "What can this teach me? How can this make me stronger?" The failure forced her to really listen to customer feedback for the first time. She discovered that while her original idea wasn't viable, customers had problems she hadn't even considered. She pivoted, created a solution to their actual needs, and built a successful business that made 10 times more money than her original concept ever could have. The obstacle, the failure of her first app, literally became the way to her ultimate success. Action step. Think of a current obstacle in your life. Instead of asking, "How do I get around this?" ask, "What is this trying to teach me? What strength is this trying to build in me? What opportunity might be hidden within this challenge?" As Epictetus taught, don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Let your response to obstacles embody the Stoic understanding that every challenge is secretly an opportunity. Rule 4. Practice negative visualization. Strengthen your gratitude muscle. One of the most counterintuitive but powerful Stoic practices is negative visualization, mentally rehearsing loss to increase appreciation for what you have. This isn't morbid thinking. It's psychological insurance that makes you both more grateful and more resilient. Seneca wrote, "What is quite unlooked for is more crushing in its effect, and unexpectedness adds to the weight of a disaster. The thing that has long been expected softens the blow when it comes. Therefore, let not your mind be crushed beneath a sudden impulse. Long before the event, let your mind be prepared for it." Modern psychology has proven what Stoics knew 2,000 years ago. We adapt to good things quickly, but remain sensitive to loss. This is why people who win the lottery often return to their baseline happiness levels within a year. But people who practice gratitude consistently report higher life satisfaction. Take Michael, a successful architect who had fallen into the trap of taking his life for granted. His health, his family, his career, his home, they had all become invisible because they were constant. He was always focused on what he didn't have, what wasn't perfect, what needed to be improved. Then he started practicing negative visualization. Once a week, he would spend 10 minutes imagining life without one of his blessings. What if he lost his health? What if his marriage ended? What if his children weren't in his life? What if he couldn't do the work he loved? This wasn't torture, it was revelation. Suddenly, his ordinary Tuesday morning coffee with his wife became precious. His ability to walk upstairs without pain became a gift. His children's laughter became a symphony. His work became an opportunity to create rather than an obligation to endure. The practice didn't make him pessimistic. It made him present. It didn't make him anxious. It made him grateful. Most importantly, when actual challenges did arise, and they did, he was mentally prepared and emotionally resilient. Action step. Once a week, practice negative visualization. Choose one thing you value, your health, your relationships, your abilities, and spend 5 to 10 minutes imagining what life would be like without it. Then return to reality with a deeper appreciation for what you have. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight. By mentally preparing for change, we become students of life rather than victims of circumstance. Rule 5. Respond, don't react. The space between stimulus and response. Between every stimulus and your response, there is a space. In that space lies your freedom and your power to choose who you become. This is perhaps the most practical and immediately applicable Stoic principle. Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." But here's what most people miss. The Stoics weren't just talking about big dramatic events. They were talking about every single moment of every single day, the small irritations, the minor disappointments, the everyday frustrations that either build your character or erode it. Every time someone cuts you off in traffic, you have a choice. Every time you receive criticism, you have a choice. Every time plans don't go as expected, you have a choice. React immediately from emotion or respond thoughtfully from wisdom. Consider David, a customer service manager who used to pride himself on his quick responses. When customers were angry, he'd match their energy. When team members made mistakes, he'd immediately express his frustration. He thought he was being authentic and decisive. But his quick reactions were destroying his relationships and his peace of mind. He was constantly stressed, his team walked on eggshells around him, and customer conflicts escalated rather than resolved. Then he learned about the space between stimulus and response. He started practicing a simple technique. When something triggered him, he would take 3 deep breaths and ask himself 3 questions. What would a wise person do here? What response would I be proud of tomorrow? How can I turn this into an opportunity to practice virtue? The transformation was remarkable. Customer complaints became opportunities to demonstrate excellent service. Team mistakes became teaching moments. Difficult situations became chances to model calm leadership. His stress decreased. his relationships improved, and his effectiveness skyrocketed. Action step. For the next week, when something triggers you, practice the pause. Take 3 deep breaths and ask, what would my best self do in this situation? Notice how this small space changes everything. Seneca reminds us, the willing, destiny guides them. The unwilling, destiny drags them. When you choose your responses consciously, you become the author of your own destiny. Rule 6. Focus on your character, not your reputation. In our social media age, this Stoic principle has never been more relevant or more challenging. We live in a world obsessed with image, likes, and external validation. The Stoics understood something profound. Character is who you are when nobody is watching. Reputation is who people think you are. Only one of these is truly under your control. Marcus Aurelius wrote, how much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does, but only to what he does himself. He was the most powerful man in the world, yet he understood that seeking approval from others is a prison. The moment you start living for other people's opinions, you stop living your own life. You become an actor in someone else's play, constantly performing rather than authentically being. Consider Rachel, a young lawyer who was brilliant at her work but constantly anxious about what others thought of her. She would spend hours crafting the perfect social media posts, agonizing over every comment in meetings, and changing her opinions based on who she was talking to. She was successful on paper, but miserable in reality. She was living for her reputation rather than her character. Every decision was filtered through, what will people think, rather than what is the right thing to do. When she discovered Stoicism, everything changed. She started asking different questions. What kind of person do I want to become? What values do I want to embody? How can I serve others regardless of whether they notice or appreciate it? She stopped posting for likes and started posting only when she had something genuinely valuable to share. She stopped agreeing with people to be liked and started expressing her authentic thoughts respectfully. She stopped trying to impress everyone and started focusing on being useful to everyone. Paradoxically, when she stopped caring about her reputation and started focusing on her character, her reputation actually improved. But more importantly, her inner peace and self-respect flourished. Action step. For the next week, before making any decision, ask yourself, am I doing this because it's right, or because I want people to think well of me? Choose character over reputation every single time. Epictetus teaches us, don't be concerned about what others think of you. Be concerned about what you think of yourself. Your relationship with yourself is the only relationship you can never escape. Rule 7. Practice voluntary discomfort. Build your resilience muscle. Comfort is the enemy of growth. The Stoics understood that if you only experience ease, you become weak and unprepared for life's inevitable difficulties. They practiced voluntary discomfort not to suffer, but to build the strength they needed to handle involuntary discomfort. Seneca wrote, set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, is this the condition that I feared? This isn't masochism or asceticism for its own sake. This is practical preparation for reality. Life will test you whether you're ready or not. The question is, will you build your strength before the test, or will you be broken by it? Modern neuroscience has proven what Stoics knew through experience. Deliberately choosing discomfort builds actual neural pathways that increase your resilience, self-discipline, and confidence. Every time you do something difficult voluntarily, you prove to yourself that you're stronger than you thought. Take Alex, a software engineer who had built a comfortable life, perfect climate control, same breakfast every morning, predictable routines, minimal physical challenges. He thought he was living well, but he was actually living weakly. When his company restructured and he lost his job, he was devastated. He had no emotional or practical muscles to handle the uncertainty. That's when he discovered the Stoic practice of voluntary discomfort. He started small, cold showers, walking instead of driving when possible, fasting for 1 meal a week, sleeping on the floor occasionally, saying no to immediate pleasures. Each small act of voluntary discomfort built his confidence. He realized that if he could choose to be uncomfortable, then involuntary discomfort couldn't defeat him. When he did face challenges, job interviews, financial uncertainty, relationship difficulties, he had the inner strength to handle them calmly and effectively. The cold showers taught him that he could do hard things. The occasional fasting taught him that he could delay gratification. The physical challenges taught him that discomfort is temporary and manageable. Action step: choose one small voluntary discomfort to practice this week. Take a cold shower, wake up an hour earlier, skip 1 meal, or walk instead of drive. Notice how conquering voluntary discomfort builds your confidence for involuntary challenges. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Voluntary discomfort is how you develop that power. Rule 8. Live in accordance with nature. Align with universal principles. When Stoics talk about living according to nature, they don't mean living in the woods or rejecting technology. They mean living according to your essential nature as a rational, social, virtuous human being. This is about alignment, making sure your daily actions reflect your deepest values and highest capabilities. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Constantly regard the universe as one living being, having one substance and one soul. You are not separate from the world. You are part of a magnificent whole, and your role is to play your part excellently." Living according to nature means understanding what humans are designed for: reason, virtue, community, and growth. When you act irrationally, selfishly, in isolation, or without learning, you go against your nature and create suffering for yourself and others. Consider Jennifer, a marketing executive who had built what looked like a successful life, but felt completely empty. She was making good money, had a nice apartment, and seemed to have it all together. But she was living completely out of alignment with her values. Her job required her to manipulate people into buying things they didn't need. She spent her days alone, competing rather than collaborating. She made decisions based on what was profitable rather than what was right. She had stopped learning and growing years ago. She felt like she was dying inside because she was living against her nature as a human being. When she discovered Stoicism, she realized that success without virtue isn't success at all. It's sophisticated failure. She started making changes. She moved to a company whose products genuinely helped people. She began prioritizing relationships and community involvement. She made decisions based on what was virtuous, not just what was profitable. She committed to learning something new every day. The external changes were significant, but the internal transformation was profound. She felt alive again because she was living according to her nature as a rational, virtuous, social being. Action step: identify one area of your life where you're living out of alignment with your values. What would it look like to make decisions in that area based on reason, virtue, and service to others? Take one specific action this week to move toward alignment. Epictetus teaches us, no one can hurt you without your permission. When you live according to your nature, external circumstances cannot disturb your inner peace. Rule 9. Practice evening reflection, the daily philosophical audit. Just as morning reflection sets the foundation for your day, evening reflection completes the cycle of conscious living. This is when you review your choices, learn from your experiences, and prepare to be even wiser tomorrow. Seneca wrote, "When the light has been removed and my wife has fallen silent, I examine the whole day and go back over what I've done and said, hiding nothing from myself, passing nothing by. For why should I fear any consequence from my mistakes when I'm able to say, watch out that you don't do it again, but now I forgive you?" This isn't self-criticism or perfectionist obsessing. This is the practice of continuous improvement through honest self-assessment. You're not judging yourself harshly. You're learning from yourself wisely. Most people go through their days unconsciously, repeating the same patterns, making the same mistakes, never stopping to extract wisdom from their experiences. They live the same year 80 times and call it a life. Take Robert, a project manager who used to end every day by collapsing in front of the TV, trying to forget the stress and frustrations of work. He never reflected on what went well, what could be improved, or what he could learn. He just tried to escape and then wondered why he kept facing the same challenges over and over. When he started practicing evening reflection, everything changed. He would spend 10 minutes each night asking himself 3 questions. What did I do well today? What could I have done better? What did I learn that will help me tomorrow? He started noticing patterns in his behavior. He identified which approaches worked best with different team members. He became conscious of his growth instead of just hoping for it. Most importantly, he stopped carrying the day's frustrations into the evening. Action step. Starting tonight, spend 10 minutes before bed reflecting on your day. What went well? What could be improved? What did you learn? Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. The best way to avoid repeating mistakes is to learn from them consciously. Rule 10. Cultivate inner citadel, build unshakable peace. The inner citadel is perhaps the most beautiful and powerful concept in all of Stoic philosophy. It's the idea that within your mind, you can build a fortress that no external circumstance can penetrate, a place of peace, wisdom, and strength that remains constant regardless of what happens around you. Epictetus, who knew what it meant to be physically enslaved, taught, "No one can harm you without your permission." He understood that true freedom isn't about external circumstances, it's about the sovereignty of your inner world. Your inner citadel is built from virtue, wisdom, and the unshakable knowledge that your worth and peace don't depend on external outcomes. It's the place you retreat to when the world becomes chaotic, and it's the foundation from which you engage with life courageously. Consider Maria, a nurse working in a high-stress emergency room. Every day, she faced human suffering, impossible decisions, and emotional chaos. For years, she absorbed all of this stress and took it home with her. She was burning out, becoming cynical, and losing the compassion that made her excellent at her job. Then she learned about the inner citadel. She realized that while she couldn't control the suffering around her, she could control her response to it. While she couldn't save everyone, she could give her absolute best to each person she treated. She started building her inner citadel through daily Stoic practices. Morning meditation to set her philosophical foundation. Conscious breathing during difficult moments to maintain her center. Evening reflection to process experiences without being overwhelmed by them. The transformation was remarkable. She became more effective at work because she wasn't emotionally flooded by each crisis. She was more compassionate because she wasn't protecting herself through cynicism. She found meaning in difficulty instead of being defeated by it. Her inner citadel became a source of strength, not just for herself, but for everyone around her. Patients felt calmer in her presence. Colleagues sought her guidance during difficult cases. She became a beacon of peace in a storm. Action step. Begin building your inner citadel today. Choose one daily practice that connects you to your core values and inner wisdom: meditation, journaling, reading philosophy, or conscious breathing. Commit to this practice regardless of external circumstances. Seneca teaches us, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Your inner citadel is both the end of being at the mercy of circumstances and the beginning of true inner freedom. Rule 11. Practice sympathia. Understand universal connection. Sympathia is the Stoic concept that everything in the universe is interconnected, that we are all part of one living system. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "We were born to work together like feet, hands, and eyes, like the 2 rows of teeth, upper and lower. To obstruct each other is unnatural. To feel anger at someone, to turn your back on him, these are acts of obstruction. This isn't just philosophical poetry. It's a practical understanding that your well-being and others' well-being are fundamentally connected. When you harm others, you harm yourself. When you understand this deeply, it changes how you approach every relationship and every interaction. In our hyper-connected yet strangely isolated modern world, this ancient wisdom is more relevant than ever. Social media often makes us feel more divided, competitive, and judgmental. Stoic sympathia reminds us that beneath all surface differences, we share the same fundamental human nature and challenges. Consider Thomas, a small business owner who used to see every other business as competition to be defeated. He would celebrate when competitors failed, hoard information that could help others, and approach every business relationship as a zero-sum game. This mindset created constant stress and isolation. He was always defending, always competing, never collaborating or genuinely connecting with others in his industry. When he discovered the Stoic concept of sympathia, his entire approach changed. He realized that a thriving business ecosystem benefited everyone, including him. Customers with more good options became more sophisticated and demanding, which pushed him to improve. Other successful businesses created a rising tide that lifted everyone. He started sharing knowledge freely, referring customers to competitors when they weren't the right fit, and celebrating others' successes genuinely. Paradoxically, this cooperative approach made his business more successful than his competitive approach ever had. More importantly, it made him happier. Instead of living in a world of enemies and threats, he lived in a world of potential collaborators and fellow travelers. Business became about service rather than conquest. Action step. This week, look for opportunities to help someone you might normally see as competition, or someone with whom you disagree. Practice seeing them as a fellow human being facing similar challenges, and find ways to serve their genuine well-being. Epictetus reminds us, don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Let your actions demonstrate your understanding of universal connection. Rule 12. Memento mori. Remember your mortality. The final rule is perhaps the most profound. Remember that you will die. This isn't morbid obsession with death. It's the most powerful tool for appreciating life. When you truly understand that your time is limited, everything becomes more precious, more meaningful, more urgent in the best possible way. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live." The awareness of mortality doesn't make life darker, it makes life brighter by stripping away everything that doesn't matter and focusing your attention on everything that does. When you remember that you have limited days, you stop wasting them on petty concerns. You stop postponing important conversations. You stop taking loved ones for granted. You stop saving your best effort for someday and start giving it today. Consider Patricia, a successful lawyer who was so focused on building her career that she was missing her life. She worked 80-hour weeks, constantly postponed family time, and kept telling herself that she would live once she achieved the next promotion, made partner, or had enough money. Then her father had a heart attack. Suddenly, mortality wasn't an abstract concept, it was a daily reality. She realized that all her plans for someday were meaningless if someday never came. She started practicing memento mori, not obsessing about death, but using the awareness of mortality to clarify what truly mattered. She realized that no one would remember her billable hours, but they would remember how she made them feel. No one would care about her professional achievements if she hadn't been present for the people who loved her. She restructured her life around this understanding. She still worked hard, but she also prioritized meaningful relationships, personal growth, and experiences that brought joy. She stopped saving her best self for special occasions and started bringing her best self to ordinary moments. The awareness of mortality didn't make her morbid. It made her alive in a way she had never been before. Action step. Each morning this week, remind yourself that this day is a gift that not everyone received. Ask yourself, if this were my last day, how would I spend it? Who would I call? What would I say? How would I show up? Then live accordingly. Seneca teaches us, let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day. These 12 rules aren't just philosophical concepts to understand intellectually. They're tools to be used daily, practices to be embodied, principles to be lived. Each one has the power to transform your experience of life, but their real magic happens when you integrate them into a complete way of being. The Stoics understood something that modern psychology is just beginning to prove. Happiness isn't about getting what you want. It's about wanting what you have while working skillfully toward what matters most. It's about building inner strength that no external circumstance can shake. It's about living with such integrity and wisdom that you can face any challenge with courage and grace. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus lived in times of war, political upheaval, and personal suffering. Yet they found peace, meaning, and even joy by following these principles. They prove that external circumstances don't determine your inner experience, your philosophy does. You now have access to the same tools that guided emperors and slaves, warriors and teachers, across centuries and cultures. The question isn't whether these principles work. History has proven that they do. The question is whether you will commit to practicing them consistently until they become who you are, not just what you know. If this video has resonated with you, I invite you to take the next step in your Stoic journey. Like this video if it provided value, subscribe to join our community of modern Stoics, and most importantly, comment below with one specific rule you're going to implement starting today. Tell us how you're going to begin living these principles, not just understanding them. Remember, knowledge without action is just entertainment. Wisdom is knowledge applied consistently over time. Here's my challenge for you. Which of these 12 rules will you master first? And what will your life look like when you've embodied all of them? The Stoics believed that every human being has the potential for wisdom, virtue, and unshakable inner peace. Your journey toward that potential begins with your very next choice. The question that will determine your future is this: will you live as a passenger in your own life, or will you take the wheel and steer toward wisdom, virtue, and authentic happiness? The choice, as always, is yours. And that choice, as the Stoics knew, is the most powerful thing you possess.